you move through your day with this fundamental unspoken assumption.
Right.
You think you are completely in the driver's seat of your own brain. Like you wake up, you decide what clothes to wear, you choose to pour that cup of coffee.
You pick the playlist for your commute.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you firmly believe that you are the one directing your focus. You think your mind is this, incredibly sophisticated tool just sitting right there in your skull, waiting patiently for your conscious orders.
Waiting for you to pull the levers.
Yeah. But what if you are completely, fundamentally wrong?
I mean, that's the terrifying part.
What if you're actually the passenger? What if your mind isn't a tool you use, but an independent force that, quite frankly, takes you hostage on a daily basis?
It's wild to think about because it really challenges the absolute core of how we perceive human agency.
Yeah.
We desperately cling to this narrative that we are the sovereign rulers of our own cognitive domain.
Well, we have to, right?
Exactly. I mean, the entire structure of our society, our legal systems, our economic models, our whole concept of morality, it's all built on the premise of the rational actor making deliberate choices.
Right. The idea that I did this because I chose to do it.
Right. But the reality of human experience, if we actually observe it without that ego-driven bias, is it's far less about steering the ship and far more about being violently tossed around by the currents of our own internal responses.
Tossed around. I like that.
Yeah, we don't just possess thoughts. Thoughts possess us. They seize the machinery.
And that unsettling reality is exactly what we're unpacking today on this deep dive.
Yes, we are.
We are exploring the foundational premise of a fascinating, incredibly elusive concept based on a work titled Capture a Theory of the Mind by David A. Kessler.
Such a great title.
It really is.
Yeah.
And, we were essentially playing the role of intellectual archaeologists today.
Oh, for sure.
Because we aren't sitting here with a neat, perfectly typeset 400-page manuscript to summarize. What we actually have is a stack of digital artifacts.
A very messy stack.
Literally. We have 38 scanned images that are so profoundly degraded, so blurry, that they are essentially illegible.
They look like the ghosts of pages.
Yeah, exactly. But within that digital fog, we have managed to extract a few incredibly potent clues.
Oh, did.
We have the title, Capture a Theory of the Mind. We have the author's name and his birth year, which is David A. Kessler, 1951.
Right.
We have a single, partially legible chapter heading that just says, 5 when captured.
It's just that.
Yeah, and we have one completely bizarre, cryptic text extraction glitch where the optical character recognition just spit out the letters EECE space EE.
Which is my favorite part of all this.
It's so weird. But, I mean, to a structuralist or a philosopher of mind, those fragments, they act as the cornerstone of an ancient temple.
Oh, absolutely. You don't need the entire blueprint to understand the architecture of the building, if you know how to read the foundation.
Right.
Those few data points, especially the specific vocabulary chosen in the title and that chapter heading, they allow us to really reverse engineer a profound and radical psychological framework.
Just from a few words?
Yeah, we can reconstruct the core mechanism of the theory just by analyzing the implications of the word capture as it relates to human cognition.
And that is our mission today. We are going to extract maximum insight from minimal data.
I love it.
We are deconstructing the very concept of being captured by one's own cognition. And, the goal here is to take these sparse, poetic fragments and use them to trigger a massive shift in how you view your own daily life.
To really change the lens.
Exactly. If you do this right, you will look at your own behavior, your anxieties, your sudden obsessions, and your distractions through a completely different lens.
You'll see the strings being pulled.
Yeah. So let's start with the primary factual anchor, the absolute center of gravity for this entire deep dive. The title itself, Capture a Theory of the Mind.
The word capture carries a massive amount of weight.
It really does. I mean, it isn't influence a theory of the mind.
Right.
It isn't distraction or persuasion. It is capture.
And that linguistic choice changes the entire paradigm.
How so?
Well, to capture something inherently implies a dynamic of power and powerlessness.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It involves an external, or in this case, internal but autonomous force just completely overriding your free will. It is an act of seizure.
It's hostile.
Very. And if a theory of the mind is based entirely on the concept of capture, it makes a radical claim about human nature.
Which is?
It suggests our default state, like our baseline operational mode, is not one of cool, calm, rational agency. It is one of inherent vulnerability.
You're just walking targets.
Exactly. We are susceptible to being hijacked by our own neurobiology.
It sounds like you're describing the mind as a landscape filled with hidden traps.
That's a great way to put it.
And the implications of that are huge, especially regarding how we judge ourselves, right?
Oh, totally.
Like when we get fixated on something, or when we fall down a rabbit hole of negative self-talk, or when we literally can't stop checking our phones.
Or when you're paralyzed by a sudden irrational fear.
Right. The standard cultural narrative tells us that this is a moral failure.
Yes. It says you lack discipline.
You lack willpower. You just need to try harder.
But a theory of capture argues that these fixations are not moral failings at all. They are structural mechanisms of the brain functioning exactly as they were designed to.
So it's not a bug, it's a feature.
The trap worked. You didn't fail to be strong, you were simply captured.
That shift in blame from the moral to the mechanical is just, it's crucial.
It really is, because when you view attention and focus as a moral imperative, you end up in a constant state of guilt.
Oh, I feel that. Constantly.
Right, because the human brain is simply not designed to maintain unbroken, self-directed focus. The architecture of our nervous system is fundamentally reactive.
I want to talk about that mechanical aspect.
Yeah.
Because it feels like, okay, imagine thinking you're the pilot of a state-of-the-art airplane.
Okay, I'm with you.
You're in the cockpit, you've got your hands on the yoke, you are checking the dials, you feel completely in charge of the destination.
Cruising altitude.
Yeah. But then, without any warning, the autopilot engages.
Oh, no.
And it doesn't just engage, it completely locks you out of the controls, changes the destination coordinates, and then, for good measure, it locks the reinforced steel cabin door from the inside.
That is terrifying.
Right. You are still in the plane, you can see out the window, you are conscious of the fact that you are flying, but you aren't choosing your thoughts anymore. You are flying on a predetermined vector.
Taking that airplane analogy a step further, think about the intense psychological distress of banging on that locked cockpit door.
Just screaming to be let back in.
Yeah. You know you are off course, you can see the fuel gauge dropping, the autopilot is running a subroutine that entirely overrides your conscious desires, and the plane itself doesn't care about your panic.
It's just doing its thing.
That perfectly encapsulates the phenomenological experience of being captured. I mean, consider a time you've had a bitter argument with a partner or a colleague.
Oh, yeah.
Hours later, you are doing something mundane, like washing the dishes, and your mind is obsessively replaying the argument.
You're winning the shower argument.
Exactly. You are thinking of all the things you should have said. Your heart rate is elevated. You are feeling the anger all over again, literally flushing through your body.
Even though the person isn't even there.
Right. And consciously, you are telling yourself, I need to stop thinking about this. It's ruining my evening. It's keeping me awake.
But you can't stop.
You can't. The thought loop has locked the cockpit door.
Or even smaller, more insidious things, like you pick up your phone to check the weather, just to see if you need an umbrella tomorrow.
We've all done it.
And suddenly 45 minutes have vanished, and you are deep into a video feed of people restoring antique furniture or, whatever your particular algorithm feeds you.
Woodworking videos for me.
Right. You didn't sit down and make a conscious, rational choice to allocate an hour of your finite life to antique furniture restoration.
Definitely not.
A mechanism grabbed your attention, pulled you into a narrow cognitive tunnel, and held you there.
You were captured.
But here's what I don't get. If this capture mechanism is so disruptive to our goals, our peace of mind, and our productivity, why does it exist?
That is the million-dollar question.
Like, is this a glitch in our modern psychology, or is this actually a feature of the human machine?
It is absolutely a feature, and it is deeply animalistic.
Really?
Yeah, we have to look at this through the lens of evolutionary biology. The capacity for our attention to be entirely hijacked is one of our oldest, most vital evolutionary traits.
Okay, take me back.
Imagine our ancestors on the savannah. You are foraging for berries, picking through bushes, your mind is relatively relaxed, perhaps wandering.
It's just a nice Tuesday afternoon on the savannah.
Exactly, but suddenly you hear the sharp, distinct crack of a twig behind you. Or you catch a flicker of movement in the tall grass out of the corner of your eye.
I'm tense already.
Right. In that precise millisecond, you do not want to rely on the slow, rational, deliberative part of your brain.
No.
You do not want your prefrontal cortex weighing the statistical probabilities of what that sound might be.
Right. If my brain stops to think, I wonder if that is just the wind or perhaps a leopard.
The leopard has already won.
I'm lunch.
You are immediately removed from the gene pool.
Wow. Okay.
What needs to happen to ensure your survival is an immediate, absolute, and total hostile takeover of your cognitive system.
A hostile takeover.
Yes. The stimulus, the sound of the twig, must capture your entire attention network instantly. We call this the orienting reflex.
Wait, so what is physically happening in the brain when that reflex fires? Like, how does it bypass my ability to think?
It's incredible, actually. The architecture of the brain forbids slow processing in a survival situation by routing the information completely differently.
It takes a shortcut.
Exactly. When you hear that twig snap, the auditory signal travels to the thalamus, which acts like the brain's central relay station.
Okay, thalamus, got it.
Normally, the thalamus sends that information up to the auditory cortex to be consciously processed and understood.
Like, oh, that's a bird.
Right. But in parallel, the thalamus sends a faster, cruder signal directly to the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center.
It skips the processing.
Completely. The amygdala receives the signal milliseconds before your conscious brain even registers what the sound is.
So the alarm bells are ringing before I even know there's a fire.
Exactly. The amygdala instantly triggers the hypothalamus, which activates your sympathetic nervous system.
Fight or flight.
Yes. It floods your bloodstream with adrenaline and cortisol. Your heart rate spikes to pump more oxygen to your muscles.
My palms are sweating just thinking about it.
Your pupils dilate to take in more light. Your visual focus violently narrows to the potential source of the threat. And all of this happens involuntarily.
Without me deciding to do any of it.
Right. Your rational thought processes are effectively shut down because deliberation costs time, and time costs lives.
Wow.
The capture mechanism is a biological survival imperative. We are the descendants of the primates whose minds were most easily and effectively captured by signs of danger.
So the autopilot, throwing us out of the pilot seat, was originally designed to save our lives.
Exactly.
The autopilot knows how to dodge the leopard faster than our conscious brain does.
It's highly efficient.
That makes perfect sense for a hunter-gatherer, but, I mean, the environment changed.
Drastically.
We don't live on the savannah anymore. We don't have leopards hiding behind the water cooler at the office.
Well, most of us don't.
Right. But we are walking around with this hypersensitive prehistoric alarm system in a world that is fundamentally different.
And that evolutionary mismatch is the crux of the modern psychological dilemma.
The mismatch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We possess Paleolithic brains, operating with prehistoric capture mechanisms, trying to navigate an environment that we have artificially constructed to trigger those exact mechanisms constantly.
Constantly.
The rustling bush has been replaced by the ping of a text message, the breaking news alert, the push notification.
It's exhausting.
Our modern environment is absolutely saturated with what we call supernormal stimuli.
Supernormal stimuli, meaning things that are, like, bigger and louder than nature intended.
Yes. A supernormal stimulus is an artificial trigger that provokes a stronger reaction than the natural stimulus for which the evolutionary reflex originally developed.
Okay, give me an example.
Think about junk food. It's a supernormal stimulus for our innate drive to seek out scarce calories.
Because in nature, you don't find a triple bacon cheeseburger.
Right. And social media is a supernormal stimulus for our innate drive to gather social information and secure tribe status.
Well, that makes so much sense.
These stimuli are engineered to be more engaging, more threatening, or more rewarding than anything we would encounter in the natural world.
So they hit harder.
Much harder. Our brains are essentially giant, hypersensitive capture nets spread out and waiting for a stimulus strong enough to trigger the trap, and modern society is firing stimuli into those nets relentlessly.
So the mind is a force that takes us hostage, but we've also built an entire society that provides endless ammunition for the hostage takers.
A perfect storm.
We are constantly feeding the mechanism.
Yes, we are.
If our minds are structurally designed to capture us, and the environment dictates what triggers that capture, then the specific era in which a person observes this phenomenon must drastically shape how they define it.
Which is why the data is so important.
Right. Which brings us to the second fragmented clue we have, the author's birth year. David A. Kessler was born in 1951.
1951 provides a profound contextual lens through which we really must view this theory.
It's not just a random fact.
It is not just biographical trivia. A mind born in 1951 came of age during the most dramatic psychological, cultural, and technological shifts in human history.
I look at that year, and I think about the timeline of the world he lived through. I mean, he was born right at the dawn of the 1950s.
The post-war boom.
Yeah. The world of his childhood was still largely analog. The pace of life, the pace of information, was governed by physical limitations.
Think about the sensory inputs of a child in the 1950s. The primary sources of information were the physical environment, slow-moving print media like daily newspapers and magazines.
Which you had to wait for.
Exactly. The radio and the very early rudimentary days of broadcast television, which had, what, 3 channels? And it literally signed off at night.
Right, just static or a test pattern.
So the captures they experienced were slower, perhaps more deliberate and finite.
Like a captivating novel?
Yes, or a catchy radio jingle. The slow build of a cinematic narrative in a theater. The environment simply did not possess the technology to relentlessly assault the orienting reflex.
But then he grows up. He goes to university, presumably in the late 1960s or early 1970s.
Right.
This is right when the field of psychology itself is undergoing a massive earthquake.
He would have been squarely in the middle of the cognitive revolution.
What was the revolution against?
Well, before the 1950s and 60s, the dominant school of thought in psychology was behaviorism.
Okay.
Behaviorists, like B.F. Skinner, essentially treated the mind as a black box.
A black box. Like unreadable.
Yeah, they argued that you couldn't scientifically study internal thoughts or feelings, so you shouldn't even try. You should only focus on observable behavior inputs and outputs.
Oh, like Pavlov's dogs.
Exactly. You ring a bell, give a reward, the animal learns the behavior. It viewed humans as somewhat passive machines conditioned by their environments.
But Kessler's generation cracks open the black box.
They completely dismantled the behaviorist monopoly.
Wow.
The cognitive revolution brought the focus back to internal mental states. Psychologists started utilizing new models, often inspired by the emerging field of computer science.
Which was also just starting up.
Right. To talk about internal representations, memory structures, and attention networks, they started mapping how the mind actively processes information, rather than just reacting to rewards and punishments.
So it's a huge shift in perspective.
Massive. Kessler would have been steeped in this transition from viewing humans as simple input-output machines to viewing them as complex information processors vulnerable to overload.
And while the science of psychology is exploding and redefining the mind, the technology of media is exploding and redefining the environment.
Yes.
Like, he matures alongside the golden age of mass advertising in the 70s and 80s, where marketers started using psychological principles to literally capture consumer attention.
They started realizing how to pick the locks.
Yeah. He sees the birth of the 24-hour news cycle in the 90s, which, figured out that fear and outrage are the most effective ways to keep viewers glued to the screen.
The amygdala hijack on a national scale.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And eventually he witnesses the rise of the internet, smartphones, and the digital attention economy in the 2000s.
He witnessed the complete, ruthless industrialization of human attention.
Industrialization. That's a scary word for it.
It's accurate, though. He observed the environment shift from one where capture was an occasional natural phenomenon to an ecosystem engineered by thousands of brilliant minds, specifically designed to weaponize the Paleolithic survival reflex we discussed.
That contrast is vital.
Totally.
Because he isn't a digital native. He isn't a Gen Z kid who has never known a world without a tablet in their hands.
Right. He remembers the before.
He has the baseline. He observed the before and the after. He saw the ultimate capture machines, smartphones, and algorithmic feeds arrive and completely alter human behavior in real time.
It's like a biologist studying the natural flow of a river for decades.
Okay.
And then suddenly a massive corporation builds a gigantic hydroelectric dam that chokes the water supply and redirects the current entirely.
You'd really notice the difference.
You understand the raw power of the water so much more clearly when you see it forcefully manipulated by external engineering.
That river analogy perfectly highlights the difference between incidental capture and weaponized capture.
Exactly.
In the natural river, the water flows based on gravity and terrain. In the digital attention economy, the terrain is mathematically engineered to trap the water.
Engineered to trap. Let's look at the specific mechanics of how this philosophy of capture has been weaponized, because it relies on very specific neurobiological exploits.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Consider the architecture of a slot machine.
Oh, man.
Which was the precursor to modern digital UI design.
Slot machines are terrifyingly effective at capturing human minds. How exactly do they do it?
They utilize a psychological principle called the variable ratio reinforcement schedule.
Variable ratio.
Yes, which was actually discovered by the behaviorists, but perfected by the casinos.
Naturally.
If you put a quarter in a machine and win $1 every single time, it's boring.
It's just a job at that point.
It's predictable. Your brain quickly learns the pattern, the novelty wears off, and you stop playing. If you never win, you also stop playing. Because it's frustrating.
Obviously.
But if the rewards are randomized, you win after 3 pulls, then after 12, then after 2, then after 20, your brain's dopamine system goes into absolute overdrive.
Dopamine is the pleasure chemical, right?
See, that is a very common misconception.
Oh, really?
Dopamine is not the chemical of pleasure or reward. It is the chemical of anticipation and motivation.
Wait, anticipation?
It is the molecule of wanting. When a reward is unpredictable, the brain releases massive amounts of dopamine to motivate you to keep performing the action to figure out the pattern.
It wants to solve the puzzle.
Exactly. It creates a state of intense, hyper-focused seeking. The uncertainty is the hook. You are biologically captured by the possibility of the reward.
And the tech companies took the slot machine mechanic and put it in our pockets.
They absolutely did.
Every time you pull to refresh your email or swipe down on a social media feed, you are pulling the lever on a slot machine.
Every single swipe.
Most of the time, it's nothing. A boring email, an ad. But occasionally, you get a highly rewarding stimulus. A message from a friend, a hilarious video, a piece of outrage-inducing news.
The variable reward schedule captures your attention network.
It's exactly the same.
Exactly. And now, look at the evolution of short-form video content on platforms like TikTok or Instagram Reels.
Oh, that's a whole other level.
The creators of these platforms and the content creators themselves operate on a profound understanding of Kessler's capture theory, whether they know it or not.
How so?
The entire structural goal of a short-form video is to trigger a capture state within the first 3 seconds.
3 seconds.
They do not have the luxury of nuance or slow context building. They use extreme, counterintuitive hooks.
The digital equivalent of the rustling bush on the savannah.
Yes, but highly optimized. They start with a direct challenge to the viewer's reality, or they present a massive unresolved conflict immediately.
Right, like those videos that start mid-sentence.
Exactly. They use rapid-fire jump cuts to prevent the brain from habituating to the image, to keep it startling. They use hyper-minimalist, fast-moving subtitles, flashing on the screen almost like warning signs, where every single sentence is loaded with intense emotion or a polarizing opinion.
It's an assault.
They are purposefully designing stimuli to bypass the rational, deliberative mind and strike directly at the orienting reflex.
It creates a micro-dissonance. Like, the video starts by saying something completely wild, like, here is why drinking water is actually control your metabolism.
A classic hook.
And your brain experiences a sharp spike of confusion and threat. Wait, what? I drink water. Am I in danger?
It creates a tension.
Yeah, a tension that your brain physically cannot look away from until the tension is resolved. The objective is to make the viewer feel fundamentally unable to stop watching until they get the payoff.
And by the time you get the payoff, the next video has already started with a new jarring hook.
And the cycle repeats.
That is the weaponization of the capture mechanism. You are walking through a casino where every light, sound, and algorithmic recommendation is scientifically calibrated to trap your focus and extract your attention, which is then sold to advertisers.
Wow.
Kessler, observing this entire historical arc from 1951 to the present day, would recognize that the fundamental architecture of the human mind hasn't changed.
The brain is the same.
The brain's susceptibility is the constant. The only thing that has changed is the lethality, precision, and frequency of the traps.
In 1951, your mind might be captured by a sudden worry about the harvest, a disagreement with a neighbor, or a gripping radio drama.
Right.
Today, your mind is subjected to tens of thousands of microscopic, highly engineered capture attempts every single day.
Thousands.
The sheer volume of stimuli is staggering. Which honestly leads to an inevitable physiological question, I think.
Which is?
How have our brains not just entirely short-circuited? If we are under constant, relentless assault by these capture mechanisms, both our own internal anxieties looping and these external algorithmic traps snapping shut, what happens when the system simply overloads?
Well, we actually have physical evidence of what happens during that cognitive overload hidden within the very nature of how we retrieve this text.
The glitch.
This brings us to the most fascinating and perhaps the most bizarre piece of evidence we extracted from these ruined documents.
The digital artifact.
Yeah.
As we mentioned at the top of the deep dive, we ran these highly degraded, blurry image scans through an optical character recognition program, an OCR software.
Right.
And the software's job is to scan an image, recognize the shapes of letters, and convert them into readable digital text.
Standard protocol.
We were hoping to pull out paragraphs of Kessler's argument, profound quotes, structural outlines. But the source images were so blurry, so degraded by time and poor scanning, that the software fundamentally failed.
It threw its hands up in defeat.
It did. However, right in the middle of this sea of unreadable visual noise, the software extracted one isolated, completely cryptic phrase, just 2 letters repeated, EE space EE.
As an archivist, the technical explanation for this is pretty straightforward.
It's just an error, right?
It is a scanning error. The software encountered visual data that was too complex, too degraded, or too ambiguous to resolve into known letters.
It couldn't make sense of it.
The algorithmic logic misfired, the system failed to parse the reality of the image, and it produced a nonsensical default output. It is pure digital static. It signifies a failure of processing.
But we shouldn't just dismiss it as a mere technical error.
No, we absolutely shouldn't.
Because metaphorically, EE might be the most profound clue we possess regarding the theory of capture.
It's incredibly poetic.
Think about the function of the scanner. It is trying to read and interpret reality. It is trying to extract meaning from the environment.
Just like our brains.
Right. And it gets completely overwhelmed by the degradation, by the sheer volume of visual noise. And instead of producing meaning, instead of capturing a word, it just outputs pure, unadulterated static.
The parallel to the human cognitive experience is striking.
It really is.
Our brains are biological scanners.
Right.
We are constantly taking in vast amounts of complex, often degraded or ambiguous sensory and emotional information from the world around us.
Every second of every day.
Our neurological mandate is to parse that information into meaning, to create coherent narratives, and to generate actionable data for our survival.
Makes sense of the noise.
But there is a hard limit to our bandwidth.
Okay.
What happens when the cognitive load exceeds that bandwidth? What happens when the emotional degradation of a situation is too intense for the prefrontal cortex to process?
I used to call it the brain's blue screen of death, but that's almost too passive.
It's not passive at all.
It's more like the clutch in a manual transmission car.
Oh, I like that.
If you keep revving the engine without shifting gears, the engine will explode.
Yeah.
So the brain pushes the clutch in. It disengages the engine from the wheels.
Yes.
The engine might still be revving, the external world is still moving, but you lose all forward momentum. You are disconnected.
The functional metaphor of the clutch is excellent, because the mind-producing static is an active protective mechanism.
It's saving itself.
Exactly. Let's look at the neurobiology of being overwhelmed. We discussed the sympathetic nervous system earlier, the fight or flight response that captures us when we perceive a threat.
The adrenaline dump.
Right. But we also have a parasympathetic nervous system specifically governed by the vagus nerve.
The vagus nerve.
When a threat or a stressor is so overwhelming, so inescapable, or so relentless that fighting or fleeing is impossible, the nervous system employs its ultimate defense mechanism, the freeze response.
The deer in the headlights?
Precisely. From a metabolic standpoint, the freeze response is a drastic drop in physiological arousal. Heart rate plummets, breathing becomes shallow, and consciousness is blunted.
You just numb out.
Psychologically, this manifests as dissociation. Dissociation is the mind's way of pressing the clutch.
Wow.
It detaches your conscious awareness from your sensory inputs and your emotional processing, because the reality of the inputs is deemed too painful or too overwhelming to survive.
So dissociation is the biological equivalent of the OCR software outputting EE.
It is exactly that.
The mind says, the inputs are corrupt. The emotional load is fatal. I am severing the connection to protect the core system.
Yes.
You stare at the wall, the world becomes muffled, like you were listening to it underwater.
You feel disconnected from your own body, or you feel like the world around you is unreal.
You are not captured by a specific traumatic memory or a terrifying thought in that moment. Rather, you are buffered by the static.
The noise becomes a shield.
The noise becomes a protective shell, preventing any single devastating reality from fully capturing and destroying you.
In cases of severe trauma, dissociation is a profound survival tactic.
It literally saves people.
It does, but it exists on a spectrum. We experience microdissociations constantly in our daily lives as a response to the chronic low-level cognitive overload of the modern attention economy.
You mean those moments where you are carrying a full laundry basket? You are mentally drafting a difficult email you need to send to your boss? Your phone is buzzing in your pocket with a text message, and you walk into the kitchen to grab a glass of water.
We've all been there.
You stand there in the middle of the kitchen staring at the refrigerator, and you completely, utterly forget why you were there.
Your mind goes completely blank.
You aren't captured by the email anxiety anymore. You aren't captured by the phone buzzing. You were just empty.
The system crashed.
The mind hits an unresolvable error, outputs EE, and forces a reset.
We casually refer to it as losing our train of thought, but phenomenologically, if you pay attention to that exact second, it is a moment of pure void.
Just empty space.
It is a break in the continuity of your consciousness. In our hyperstimulated world where our attention is aggressively sought by screens, demands, and the sheer velocity of life, these moments of mental static are metabolically necessary.
You need them.
The brain is deliberately inducing a state of non-capture to allow the neurochemical balance to reset. It is purging the cache.
Or think about arriving home after a deeply exhausting, stressful day at work.
Oh, the driveway moment.
Yes. You pull your car into the driveway, you put it in park, and you just don't get out.
You just sit there.
You sit there with your hands on the steering wheel, staring out the windshield at the garage door for 10 minutes.
Not thinking about anything.
You aren't reflecting on your day. You aren't planning dinner. Your brain is completely empty. You are just internally humming.
There is no profound thought happening.
It's just buffering.
The buffering state, yes. But here is the critical philosophical pivot Kessler's theory requires us to make.
Okay, what is it?
We assume that freedom is the absence of capture.
Right. If nothing has me, I'm free.
We assume that if we are not being hijacked by an anxiety or a digital distraction, we are free. But does the modern human actually enjoy the buffering state? Do we seek out the e-glitch? Or does the static terrify us?
That is a brilliant question. Because honestly, sitting in the car staring at the garage door feels necessary, but it doesn't feel good.
No, it doesn't.
It feels numb. If you sit in a perfectly quiet room with absolutely zero distractions, most people start crawling out of their skin within 3 minutes.
Exactly. Because we are so habituated to the state of being captured by an object, a fear, a desire, a distraction, a task, that the absence of a captor feels like a malfunction.
We think something's wrong.
Have you ever attempted silent meditation where the explicit goal is to simply observe the mind without being captured by the thoughts?
I try, but within 30 seconds, I am aggressively planning my grocery list or replaying a conversation from 2014 where I embarrass myself.
Your mind is desperately throwing a rope to the nearest passing thought because it hates the void.
It's terrifying.
In many contemplative and meditative traditions, the ultimate goal is to achieve a state devoid of conceptual thought.
Nirvana, right.
The metaphor often used is to stop being captured by the passing clouds of the mind and instead become the vast, empty sky itself.
Sounds beautiful.
It is. But to the untrained, highly anxious modern mind, that emptiness does not feel like vast, peaceful sky.
What does it feel like?
It feels like static. It feels terrifying.
Why is it terrifying? Why would we rather be hostage to our own anxiety than be free in an empty room?
Because the capture state, as painful as it might be, serves a structural purpose. It defines the boundaries of the ego.
Oh, wow.
Your identity is largely composed of the things that capture your attention.
I am what I pay attention to.
Exactly. If you are constantly captured by worries about your career, your ego knows exactly who you are. You are a professional striving for success and fearing failure.
That's an identity.
If you are captured by a grievance against a family member, you are the aggrieved party in a righteous conflict.
It gives you a role to play.
The captor gives the hostage an identity. If you strip away all the captors, if you enter the void of the uncaptured mind, the ego begins to dissolve. You lose the narrative of who you are.
Wow. If I am not captured by anything, who am I?
The dissolution of the self.
That explains so much about modern behavior. We flee from the silence because the silence threatens our identity.
Yes.
We intuitively reach for our phones the second we are bored in an elevator because the microscopic void is intolerable.
We can't handle it.
The ego screams out, "Capture me, please, so I know I exist."
Yeah.
We willingly walk into the traps because the trap provides structure.
Which perfectly frames the final and perhaps most revealing piece of text we managed to salvage from the blurry documents.
The chapter heading.
We have a chapter heading. It is the only legible structural marker in the entire book, which means it carries immense theoretical weight.
It really does.
It reads 5, when captured.
When captured. The linguistic precision is everything here.
It does not say if captured.
Right.
It does not say how to avoid capture or strategies for maintaining total free will. It says when.
When?
That single word when transforms Kessler's entire theory from a cautionary tale or a self-help manual into a statement of the universal, inescapable human condition.
It's a guarantee.
It implies that the capture state is not a detour off the main road. It is the main road. It is inevitable. The biology dictates it. Every single human being will cross the threshold into being captured repeatedly every single day.
And the fact that it is chapter 5 implies this is the turning point of the book.
Absolutely.
Like the first 4 chapters might be setting up the anatomy of the mind, the evolutionary history, the environmental traps, the mechanics of the orienting reflex.
The setup.
But chapter 5 is where the trap snaps shut. The premise shifts. It is the exploration of the human experience after the threshold of no return is crossed.
You're inside it now.
You are in the belly of the whale. The cockpit door is locked. Now what?
It forces us to confront the phenomenology of the captured state from the inside. What does it actually feel like to exist within the capture?
Right.
We have spent the majority of our discussion focusing on the negative aspects, the anxiety loops, the digital addiction, the outrage cycles, the trauma responses. These are forms of pathological capture.
Pathological meaning disease-causing.
Yes. In pathological capture, the mind is hijacked by a parasitic process that degrades the host.
It eats you up.
The thought loop, or the compulsive behavior, consumes your metabolic energy, drastically narrows your worldview to the size of the threat, creates chronic physiological stress, and leaves you depleted.
Pathological capture shrinks you.
It does.
But I have to challenge the idea that being captured is inherently pathological.
Go for it.
If the mechanism is simply the total hijacking of attention and the overriding of conscious will, that mechanism sounds exactly like some of the most profound, beautiful experiences in human life.
Ah, I see where you're going.
What about being captured by art? You go to a museum, you stand in front of a massive, overwhelming painting, or you put on a symphony, and you are swept away.
You are moved.
You aren't consciously analyzing the brushstrokes or the musical notes. The art has bypassed your rational brain and captured your entire cognitive apparatus.
Yeah.
You are seized by awe.
You are identifying a crucial duality in Kessler's theory.
The duality.
Yes. The mechanism itself, the psychological and neurological machinery that locks onto a target, floods the system with focus, and dissolves the boundaries of the self, is morally and qualitatively neutral.
It's just a tool.
It is simply a biological function. The outcome, whether it destroys us or elevates us, depends entirely on the object of the capture.
Yes. Let's talk about the flow state.
The Holy Grail.
Right. It is considered the holy grail of productivity, creativity, and athletic performance. When a musician is improvising a solo, or a programmer is deep into writing complex code, or an athlete is completely in the zone during a game,
They are locked in.
they universally report feeling like they aren't making choices anymore. They aren't deliberating. The work is flowing through them.
The ego vanishes.
Their sense of time distorts wildly. 5 hours pass in what feels like 5 minutes. That is absolute, total cognitive capture. But it is entirely positive.
It is transcendent capture.
Transcendent capture.
And we actually know what is happening in the brain during a flow state. It involves a process called transient hypofrontality.
Transient hypo what?
Transient hypofrontality.
Meaning a temporary lowering of the front of the brain.
Exactly. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for complex decision-making, conscious deliberation, self-monitoring, and your sense of ego, is highly energy-intensive.
It burns a lot of fuel.
During a flow state, the brain temporarily downregulates activity in the prefrontal cortex. It literally turns down the volume on your conscious self.
It shuts the critic up.
It routes all that metabolic energy into the specific sensory and motor cortexes required for the task. You are captured so completely by the task that the part of your brain that normally generates self-doubt and tracks time goes offline.
You merge with the action.
You do! It is a highly efficient, highly rewarding state of capture.
What about love?
Ah, love.
Particularly the early stages of romantic infatuation. What psychologists call limerence.
Yes, limerence.
When you fall deeply in love, your mind is entirely colonized by the image of the other person.
You can't think of anything else.
You can't focus on your work. You can't sleep properly. Every song playing on the radio seems to be communicating directly to you about them. You have completely lost your agency. You are a hostage.
From a neurobiological standpoint, early romantic love looks incredibly similar to obsessive-compulsive capture or even addiction.
Really?
Your brain is swimming in a very specific chemical cocktail. Dopamine spikes, driving intense craving and motivation to be near the person.
The anticipation again.
Norepinephrine surges, giving you that racing heart, sweaty palms, and sleepless energy. And crucially, serotonin levels drop, which is a mechanism associated with obsessive looping thoughts.
You literally cannot stop thinking about them because your serotonin is depleted.
Exactly.
But society doesn't treat love like a pathology. We celebrate it.
We do.
We write epic poems and make billions of dollars on movies about how beautiful it is to be captured by love. The language we use is incredibly telling. You have captured my heart.
I am captivated by you.
We view being seized by this emotion as the pinnacle of human experience.
Because in that instance, the capture state connects us to something larger than ourselves. It promotes survival, reproduction, and the deep social bonding required to raise offspring.
It's biology in disguise.
It is an evolutionary imperative, cloaked in poetry. So we are left with this profound dichotomy regarding Chapter 5 when captured.
The two paths.
On one side, we have pathological capture, the rumination, the phobia, the addiction to the glowing rectangle in our pockets.
The doom scrolling.
This capture isolates us. It creates a closed loop that slowly drains our vitality.
And the other side.
On the other side, we have transcendent capture, flow states, deep empathy, romantic love, awe. This capture expands us.
It dissolves the self not to destroy it, but to integrate it into the universe.
Perfectly said.
So, if we synthesize all of this,
Yeah.
if when captured is inevitable because our Paleolithic brains are wired for it, and if our environment is saturated with traps,
Which it is.
the goal of human development cannot be to build a perfectly sterile, uncapturable mind.
No, that would be a nightmare.
That would just be the ecstatic state. That would be living as a numb robot, totally dissociated from reality.
I do feel nothing.
If we are always going to be falling into these gravity wells of attention, our only true agency lies in deciding what we fall into. We have to curate our captures.
Curating your captors, that is the ultimate practical application of Kessler's theory.
Okay, lay it on me.
If you accept that your mind is a landscape inherently filled with traps, and that you will inevitably step in one, you must become the intentional architect of that landscape.
The architect.
You must deliberately place beneficial, transcendent traps in your own path while aggressively dismantling the pathological ones.
So practically speaking, what does that architectural design of our own lives actually look like? Like, how do I hack my own autopilot?
It requires a profound meta-awareness of your own vulnerabilities. It means structuring your physical and digital environments so that the path of least resistance leads to transcendent capture, and the past pathological capture requires immense friction.
Adding friction, okay.
If you know that your smartphone is a highly engineered pathological capture device designed to exploit your dopamine prediction errors, you do not sleep with it next to your pillow.
Ouch. Called out.
You are inviting the trap into your bed. You remove the device, you create friction.
Right, put it in another room.
Instead, you put a complex novel or notebook or an instrument on your nightstand. You are setting a trap for your future self.
A good trap.
You are making a calculated decision. You're saying, when my mind inevitably seeks something to be captured by at 10:0 p.m. because it cannot handle the void of the dark room, I want it to be captured by narrative art, not by an algorithm.
You know the autopilot is going to take over eventually, so while you still have control of the yoke, you pre-program the coordinates to a beautiful destination instead of steering the plane toward a mountain.
Precisely. We may not have free will in the exact millisecond the twig snaps. The amygdala hijack is simply too fast.
It beats us every time.
But we possess profound free will in how we design the forest we walk through.
Oh, I love that.
We have agency over our environments, our habits, and our routines. We can cultivate passions, relationships, and physical spaces that offer healthy, expansive forms of capture.
We can choose to be captivated by learning, by physical movement, by deep connection with others.
We can choose the trap.
It is a massive shift in perspective. It allows you to stop fighting the fundamental nature of your own neurobiology.
Stop fighting yourself.
You can stop beating yourself up with guilt every time you get distracted or feel overwhelmed, realizing it is a structural feature of the human machine operating in a chaotic world.
Exactly.
And instead, you take on a much more empowering role. You become a curator. You become the zookeeper of your own attention.
Zookeeper?
You feed the right animals and lock the cages on the dangerous ones.
That meta-awareness, the ability to observe the mechanisms of your own mind without immediately being swept away by them, is perhaps the only true freedom we possess.
Wow.
The space between the external stimulus and the internal capture is infinitesimal. It is measured in milliseconds. But the space before the stimulus occurs, the environmental planning phase, that is vast. That is where our humanity, our rationality, and our ultimate agency reside.
This has been an absolutely incredible perspective-altering journey today.
It really has.
Let's take a moment to summarize exactly what we've uncovered. We started with what was essentially a pile of digital rubble, a handful of enigmatic fragments from a lost text.
Barely anything to go on.
We had a profound title, Capture a Theory of the Mind, which reframed our entire concept of free will, shifting the blame from moral weakness to biological design.
From a bug to a feature.
We analyzed the timeline anchored in 1951, giving us a front-row seat to the generational shift from the slow, analog reality of the mid-20th century to the weaponized, variable reward digital attention economy we navigate today.
The industrialization of attention.
I examined the glitch, the EEOCR and static, which provided a brilliant functional metaphor for dissociation, mental buffering, and the mind's desperate defense mechanisms against the sheer cognitive overload of modern life.
The blue screen of death.
It illuminated our profound terror of the void, our need for the ego to be anchored by a captor.
We need to be caught.
And finally, we dissected that ominous chapter heading, 5 when captured, which taught us that this state isn't a failure, it is an absolute inevitability.
The autopilot will engage.
Our only true choice lies in understanding the neurobiology of the traps, differentiating between the pathological captures that isolate and destroy us, and the transcendent captures like flow and love that elevate us. We must become the architects of our own landscape.
We have managed to reverse engineer a comprehensive neurobiological and philosophical framework of human agency from shadows and glitches.
From just a few blurry words.
And I believe the resulting theory is robust enough to radically change how one interacts with their own daily existence. We are not the masters of our domain in the way we wish to believe.
No, we aren't.
We are subjects, highly liable to be seized by our own cognitive machinery. But within that liability, if managed with intention, lies the capacity for profound focus, connection, and awe.
It changes the entire paradigm. It strips away the shame of being a flawed human and replaces it with a fascinating strategic game of architectural design.
It's very empowering.
But I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. Something to take with you into the rest of your day, long after this audio stops playing.
Let's hear it.
We've talked extensively about curating your environment, about setting good traps and creating friction for the bad ones. But the reality of modern life is that the pathological traps are still out there.
They're everywhere.
They are everywhere, they are highly engineered, and they are faster than your conscious brain. The autopilot will engage when you least expect it.
It will.
So the next time you find yourself entirely consumed by a doom-scrolling session, or you feel a sudden, suffocating burst of anxiety over an email, or even if you just catch yourself lost in an obsessive looping daydream while you're supposed to be listening to a friend.
We've all done it.
I want you to try something. Just pause. Freeze. Don't fight the thought yet. Don't feel guilty. Take a single deep breath. Observe the physical feeling of being trapped inside your own head, the heart rate, the narrow focus, and ask yourself this specific question.
What is it?
Am I thinking this,
Mm-hmm.
or has it just captured me? And in that exact fragile moment of awareness, how do you plan your escape?